I think the first video where I was like, oh, this could be something was I did a MacBook Pro review 6 months later. And that video, I think, did like 5,000 views in like a week. And to me, as a small YouTuber with under 5,000 subscribers, that was huge. It brought in a whole new bunch of subscribers. And because of that video, I hit 5,000. And I was like, it's crazy that one video can like launch you from like 1,000 to 5,000 very quickly. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a big thing. I walk in the store and the first thing I asked, I was like, do you have the AirPods Max? And they're like, we have one in stock. And the guy behind me asked the same thing and they're like, we have none in stock. And I was like, let's go.
You wanna come on the podcast?
Come here. Hey, baby.
Come here.
Hey, baby.
Come here.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Podcasts get infinitely better with puppies.
Can you share a little bit for the people that is tuning in for the first time and do not know who you are? What do you do?
I am a photographer, videographer, and YouTuber, which is how I've been introducing myself for the past little while. It's been weird adding YouTuber to the end of that because I feel like the vast majority of the time people don't take you seriously. Yeah. But I feel like I've finally achieved a number where people somewhat take you seriously. Because when I say YouTuber, they're like, oh, you like upload one video and you have like 8 subscribers. And it's like, no, we're getting close to 40,000. And they're like, you know, that's number is like big enough to be like, you're not professional, but like you're doing YouTube, right? Like, and I like that kind of thing. So yes, I love doing portrait photography. That's, I think, my bread and butter. I haven't done it in a hot second. But like I've been dabbling with street photography and cityscape photography and just different things. I love doing videography. I've definitely been doing more video as of late than photography. People have asked me if I still do photography because I don't upload that much stuff anymore. But that's just the nature of the game, right? Like all these apps are video focused now. They're kind of punishing you if you post photos, I feel like. So even though I do still take photos, it's not what the algorithm wants. So I'm not advertising it as often as I do. But yes, so I'm a mixed kid. I'm a creative. I'm from all over the world. I was born in Canada. My mom's from Puerto Rico. My dad's half Swiss, half Persian.
I did not know that.
Grew up in Hong Kong. So I've had a very international upbringing. Okay. And I'm from everywhere and belong nowhere. And that's who I am.
You know, every time I saw your dad on your Instagram story, I was just never able to tell where he's from.
Yeah, he's very ethnically ambiguous, isn't he? Yeah, a lot of people mention that about him, which I really, really like. So yeah.
So when did you, because, you know, I feel like we know each other for like 4 years, 4.5 years, something like that.
Because when I met you in 2018, right? So it's 4.5 years, 5 years.
Yeah. I met you at my first photo meetup ever.
That was your first one.
That was my first one.
When we were all wearing the Peak Design backpack.
Yes. With my brand new A7 III.
There you go.
That was a good time back. Yeah. But so what? Actually, I was scrolling through YouTube. Yeah. I saw your first video uploaded. Oh my god.
I don't know if it's still up there, Ken. I have
okay, maybe deleted. Maybe you deleted a few, but I found one from a while ago, and it's been a long journey because your videos obviously now is a million times
What is the
better.
one that you saw? And I'll tell you whether or not that's the first one.
It was the one. I think the video title was something on like work hard, relax something or chill something.
That was not my first video.
Okay.
That was probably like a year into me doing YouTube. I made that video because I was just like, okay, you know, what the heck? It was like summer holiday from university, but I was doing a summer internship and working a part-time job that summer. So I had like an hour or two each day in between finishing my internship and then going to my part-time job where I would just be like, you know what? I'm going to have lunch and go to the pool. So I started doing that, which I really enjoyed. That was when I was still a Nikon shooter. So, you know, I didn't know really anything about color grading. The autofocus on that camera was awful for video. But I had fun making that video, but that's not my first video. My first video I made in an off-campus apartment with all natural light. My audio levels were completely off. My music levels were so loud that you could barely hear me. Like I was low-key clipping on the audio. I had no idea well, I had some idea what I was doing, but like nowhere near the level of knowledge I had now. But I'm so glad that I decided to go down that path because it's led me here.
Yeah, I was, I don't know, I was just doing some, because all the guests that I had to this point has just kind of been like, everyone's like business professionals.
I was gonna say, am I for your like first creative like photographer, videographer,
yeah,
YouTuber?
I think so.
Okay,
like we had photographers and other professionals on, but
so I'm not your first.
Okay, but it's they're more like they post more about their work and not too much about their personal life or kind of like it's a little different styles. And I've talked to more of the harder like corporate kind of work and this and that. So it's been interesting to like because now I got like materials to touch on.
Yes,
you know what
for
I mean?
sure, for sure.
Yeah. But when was it that YouTube? Well, okay. How about what's your first viral video?
Define what are we defining as viral here?
Okay, how on like what's the first video that you're like, whoa, this is getting views, like in at least for you, your perspective.
Okay, I think the first video where I was like, oh, this could be something was I did a MacBook Pro review 6 months later, and that video I think did like 5,000 views in like a week, and to me as a small YouTuber with under 5,000 subscribers, that was huge. It brought in a whole new bunch of subscribers, and because of that video, I hit 5,000. And I was like, it's crazy that one video can like launch you from like 1,000 to 5,000 very quickly. That's and I was like, oh, okay, that's a big thing. And then I made that video shortly before going to Hong Kong, I believe. And so like I was excited because that I remember getting to Hong Kong and I was like at 5,000. And then my next big video that popped off, and it's by far the biggest one I've ever done, was the AirPods Max headphone review versus the Sony WH-XM4.
I still like obviously I probably watched like 99% of your videos that are like in the past 3 years or something, right? But that video, right? I watched it like at least once. Yeah. And I don't know, YouTube pushes it. Bro. I've seen it on my feed multiple times.
It does, and that was the thing is like there's a crazy story behind that video, right? So like I had heard, because I'm a massive tech nerd, so I was watching all the rumor sites and I knew Apple was going to be coming out with headphones, and I knew that they were going to be expensive, and I knew they were going to be competing with like the Sony and the Boses of the world. So I was expecting like, $350, $400, maybe $450 price range because it's Apple. And then they release them and it's $550 before taxes and Apple Care. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Those are expensive. And I looked at my bank account and I had like barely enough to buy them. And I'm like, I want them. I already have the Sonys. Do I need these? No. But I think what I realized is that the entire internet was like, this is such a stupid product. It is way too expensive. It shouldn't exist, and yet it does. And I was like, okay, I think there's enough like hate around it that it would actually get views. And so I didn't pre-order it because I missed out on the pre-order because I was still debating whether or not I should spend $600 on a product that I didn't need. And I was the first person so I lined up an hour and a half before Apple opened that day. I was the first person in line. I walk in the store, and the first thing I asked, I was like, do you have the AirPods Max? And they're like, we have one in stock. And the guy behind me asked the same thing, and they're like, we have none in stock. And I was like, let's go. And so they come out, they bring it to me, and they're like, you're the first person in Hong Kong to have this. And because of the time difference, I was basically like the first person in the world to have this because I was a day ahead in Hong Kong. I see. And so I knew I was just going to be grinding out content on this because I'm like, all the famous tech reviewers in the US, their video comes out like tonight or tomorrow morning my time, and they've had it for 2 weeks. This video has been done. They've had their review. I've had it for like 3 hours. I'm going to do as much as I possibly can. So I did an unboxing, I did a review, I did initial impressions. All those videos sucked. They got maybe like 1,000 or 2,000 views, and I was so bummed. I was like, I was like, this is the thing, right? And then I was like, you know what? I'll compare it to the Sonys because I, as a consumer, would kind of be interested. And I was very like this price point doesn't match up, right? Like the Sonys are by far the better bang for buck. So I think it'll be interesting to compare it to something that the rest of the world is very familiar with and already has like a very good review with the Sony XM4s. And then I did that video and I woke up at like 7 in the morning, started filming, doing everything. And I like hyper focused beyond compare. Like I skipped breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I like barely took any breaks. And because I hadn't eaten, I hadn't taken any breaks, at like 10:30 that night, I was exhausted. And I was like 90% done with the video, but I was like, I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if I should finish. I'll just leave it for tomorrow. And my dad was like, Mark, you've been working all day. You are so close. Just finish it. I'm like, Dad, you have work at 5 a.m. tomorrow. Like, I don't want to keep you up. He's like, Mark, it's okay. I know it's a big deal. I know that for the first time ever, you have an advantage over the people who've had it for 3 weeks. You should take advantage of that. And I was like, fuck, okay, I guess I'll finish it. And I grinded it out. And my Wi-Fi is so, can I swear? My Wi-Fi is so shit on the island that I live on. It's literally dial-up. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, it's actually dial-up. It's using telephone lines. So the maximum speed I could ever get on a good day was 2 megabytes per second. So obviously not good enough to upload a YouTube video. So going back to talking about my life revolving around the ferry schedule, I finished the video. I exported the video. I then ran like Usain Bolt to catch the 11 o'clock ferry, because I literally left my apartment at 10:57 and I'm bolted. Like usually that's like a 7 to 10 minute walk for me. So I just bolted to get there in like 2.5 minutes. I was dying. Everyone on the ferry thought I was crazy. Yeah. I get to the mall that's right near the ferry pier, and I'm connecting to their Wi-Fi and uploading the video, and it uploads, and I have it go immediately live. I had all of the thumbnail and everything done already, so I just was like, go, go, go. And I'm like, okay, I'm so exhausted. I just get home. It's like past midnight now, and I'm like, I'm going to sleep. And the next morning I wake up, and it's at like 2,000 views, and I'm like, I've never had a video do that well in less than 24 hours. Like I was shocked, and then it just kept going and going and going and going. And I'm like, first video to hit 100,000 views, like what? And then 500,000, and then 1 million. And I'm like, what is this? And then I looked at the analytics as well. Like this is like 3 years later now. Yeah, and that one decision I was struggling with about whether or not to spend $600, that one video brought in like $10,000.
That's amazing.
Which was mind-blowing to me. So I think I was like, okay, this shows that there's potential. I haven't had a big hit since then, but that was like a very eye-opening moment. And I think that's the moment my dad finally realized that like, oh, YouTube can be serious. Like he's always supported me, but he's always like, you know, maybe have a backup plan. Maybe like do this. And after seeing that, he's like, okay, this is an option now, right? I think it finally clicked. And so he got much more supportive after that. Yeah.
That's super cool. I didn't know there's, that's crazy, dude. That's crazy. I mean, but honestly, like shout out to your dad for pushing you.
I know, dude. I credit him for that, because I would have waited another 24 hours and it would probably not have been as successful, which is kind of like that first, what's the word? I'm like the first person to put it out. Yeah, you definitely get that.
Because everyone's anticipating, everyone wanted it.
And I think that was the thing is like I beat all the other big tech reviewers. They didn't have a XM4 versus, so everyone wanted to know. And I found that like versus videos where you have two products going head to head, people are more interested in. Because if you're just reviewing one product, they're like, okay.
They want the comparison. Yes, a lot of people are comparison shoppers.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing. And you know, there's this psychological study done a while back that I recall very vividly about vending machines. Have you heard about this? And so they're like, if you have one vending machine, the question is, do I want a drink or not? Yeah. If you have two vending machines, the question is, which drink do I want? And I think that psychology kind of started like working in these comparison videos where it's like, it's no longer, the AirPods Max. It's like, okay, there's a battle now. I want to see which one is better and make my decision based off of that. Yeah.
So do you have a video that, like you talked about the one that, you know, that was like the first one you popped off. Yeah. Do you have videos where you thought like, oh my, this is going to go?
And it just didn't?
And it did not.
You know, I think one of my color grading tutorials I thought would do really well. And I remember putting it out, and it was my worst video. Like, it performed 10 of 10, right? Which is a really low rating. And I was really bummed because I was like, I was really excited about this. I thought I explained everything really well. And I looked at myself, I'm like, okay, I'm never going to do another color grading video ever again. And I guess I was before the curve because I did it on DaVinci Resolve 17. And I think this was like right before people started realizing what DaVinci Resolve actually was. So that initial like couple of weeks, it was doing horribly. But then as people were making the switch over to DaVinci and they wanted to learn a little bit more, and like 17 was a really, really big update, the view count went up, and now it's my second most watched video of all time. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. But which is weird to say, right? Like I thought it was a failure at the beginning, and then over time it made up for it. But I don't know. I think a video, I don't know. I feel like camera bag videos. I always love like those kind of like what's in my camera bag. Like I'm a massive tech nerd. I feel like those are not as important, or like they don't have the same oomph like they used to. Like I feel like everyone always wanted to know what cameras someone had or what lenses. And I think so many people are now somewhat knowledgeable about camera equipment. It's not as impressive. And all cameras are really, really good now, right? Like we were talking about comparisons before. I think there were massive differences between camera brands and their capabilities a couple of years ago. And now they're more or less even for the most part. It comes down to personal preference and maybe lens choice. But, you know, the vast majority of the playing field is not one has a massive advantage over the other. So I think there's a little bit less emphasis on what someone is using to create now, and it's more about what they create with it. So yeah, I think that, I guess that, yeah.
Do you still do client work and stuff?
I do still do client work 100%. It definitely brings in money. It's been weird transitioning to client work in Hong Kong because in the US here in Arizona, I was mostly working with like individual people. Like I would do portraits, like I do the occasional small wedding, or just like I'm usually dealing with the person, like the client. And then in Hong Kong, very different clientele that I had. It was usually more corporate work. And you deal with them very differently. You have a completely different price point. And as someone who has a lot of self-doubt and issues regarding that, it was so weird when I was sending the invoice to this one company and I'm adding everything up and I'm like, that can't be right. That's way too much money, right? Like there's no way I'm worth that. There's no way that they're going to approve this. And I'm sending this off and I'm like sweating, I'm stressing. I'm like, dude, I'm going to have an email where they're just like telling me that there's no way they're going to pay this. And then they quickly respond. They're like, yep, it's been approved. You'll be paid momentarily. And I was like, I was speechless. I was like, what? I felt like I got away with murder, you know? And I was like, oh my God, like that's just fine. Like, and I think that initial interaction made me realize like maybe my shit is actually worth something. maybe I'm not a horrible piece of garbage who puts out very mediocre work. Maybe like I actually do provide a service that they need and enjoy. So since then I have started pricing accordingly and charging more. And it's weird when you start just making like sending invoices you never thought in your life that you'd send. Like it's different. It's very different. And it's definitely an adjustment. So that's. But
I feel like it also like kind of directly correlates to your skill. Because like if you like the thing is like, sure, like anyone could sort of send an expensive quote to a big corporate company and they might pay. But I feel like one, like, are they going to use you again? You know, that shows if you do quality work, they'll come back. And, you know, if you're pricing way too high and the product is not up to there, they're never talking to you again. Like, ooh. You know? And I think another thing is that, I mean, you always have to continue to push the limits, right? I totally agree on that. And as your experience and capability grows, like you want to increase your prices. But like, if I priced for something that is way out of what I'm capable of, and I know it deep down, dude, that product is stressful.
Yes.
Dude, if you're charging way more than what you're capable of, like Hey, I mean, it's up to you if you want to, take on that risk and give it a try. Like do it if you're a creative or business person or videographer that's starting out or whatever it is. Like, dude, send that. See what happens. The worst case is no. They're not gonna. Nothing bad's gonna happen. But like at the same time, if they say yes, at least I feel like my prices has been like upping on increments that haven't gone. I haven't done like
astronomical.
Yeah, I haven't 10x my price.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
exactly.
I feel like that would happen because even with corporate stuff, like sometimes like this is how I know if like the job is important to me or like what it is. Like I don't know. I can't. My stomach hurts the day before. Like there's too much. There's like I know it, but like that's when like the price point is a decent point. And like you want to make sure that everything goes well.
Yeah, of course. That's the thing. So there's this quote from one of my professors that will stick with me to the day I die, and it was so interesting. And someone was like, I get butterflies. It was a radio journalism class, right? And so a student asked him, like, why do I always get butterflies? Is that a good thing? Is this normal? And the professor, who'd been doing radio journalism for like 50 years, right? Like super pro, he goes, the day you don't feel butterflies is the day you should quit because you no longer care. And I was like, dang, that stuck with me. Because like you should have a healthy amount of nerves because you care about it. You're like, okay, I want to do a good job. I want to do this. Like I always felt like, am I good enough? Like, it might be viewed as a bad thing. But after he said that and put such a positive spin on it, I'm like, okay, I should care about this. That's a good thing.
That's a really good outlook.
I loved that.
That's true.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. If you show up and you're like, screw this, don't really care, I don't care if this goes well, then your work is going to suffer, and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I think that's evident, right? So yeah, it's different. I think it's important to care about the work you do, and you definitely grow with each thing. Yeah.
What have you learned doing YouTube?
Timing is everything. Like trying to be. I think in my niche of more like tech stuff, you have to be on top of it. And I've always been a massive tech nerd, and I laugh too because if something. I want to be a first adopter, right? Like I want to get the iPhone launch day, and if I get it even like a week later, I'm like, might as well wait for the next one, right? Like this is old news. Yeah. So yeah, timing is very important for the stuff I do. But I think what I've learned as well is that not necessarily from my own personal stuff, but just seeing what does well. And it's more like personality, storytelling, and the stuff that I care about, like quality, is not that important. Like I was like, I need the best gear, I need the best mics, I need the best camera, the best lens, all this stuff to be the best. And I don't think people care about that as much. I think they notice that there's definitely like an upping in quality production. But if you don't have a personality, if you don't have good storytelling, if you don't have any of that, then they don't really care. It's just like something pretty that's meaningless. And I think that is really important.
So for someone to grow on YouTube, it's really, you want to make sure that they have some good storytelling skills, and that can be a great speaker or really good with the camera too.
I think it depends on the kind of niche you're in, right? Like you have someone like Johnny Harris, who's like a very good like deep dive documentary kind of person who, knows how to like weave, and it's just like the whole production there is like music and graphics and all this stuff. Like, there are faceless YouTubers who you've never seen their face and they're very, very successful, right? And like you have gaming YouTubers who never, like, it just depends on your niche what you should do. But like there's always a way to be successful that you don't always anticipate. But I personally feel like, I don't know, if you want that like recognition, you need to put your face everywhere. That's just my opinion.
I don't know. I've never really cared about like views and stuff until now.
And so what changed for you then?
I guess it is that. So I guess we'll talk about the podcast.
Okay.
And okay, I guess how about this? We'll rewind.
Okay.
We'll go a little back. So obviously, as this is part of my job.
Yeah.
And I tell other people I literally make people's social media content, right?
Yeah.
Or like company profile videos or whatever it is. We're making videos for the company, and the end goal is to make more money for them, right? For them to benefit in some sort of way.
Yep.
And it might be saving money or whatever the case is. Sure. Right. We do that as a job, and I also I don't I believe in the model of creating content so people can get to know you and they want to hire you.
Yeah.
And of course you can there's tons of businesses out there that build their company off of strictly referrals, strictly word of mouth and other ways of traditional marketing. Let's call it that. But then you see all these new companies and new growth, and when you see insane scale, usually social media.
Yes, it's very true.
So I recognize that, obviously, and I want to be in that space. And I tried multiple times talking directly to the camera, doing talking head styles of trying to do something. I've actually filmed what's in my bag video.
Yeah.
Literally, when first COVID hit, I literally did that.
Yeah.
Did it. I did the top down view, and I did that.
Yeah.
So bad.
Yeah.
It was so bad. I was I'm never ever showing that video, right?
Yeah.
And there's other times where okay, maybe if I just film a video of me hey, this is my announcement, first video on YouTube announcement, this is what the channel is gonna be about.
Yeah.
I recorded it, I edited it, I added all the graphics, and I was I looked at it multiple times. I actually uploaded it, and then I was no.
And then you deleted it.
And
interesting.
And it just never came natural to me of talking to the camera. And I do think it's practice.
Yes.
Which definitely, right? Definitely practice and you'll get better at it.
Yeah.
But also I think there's some stuff that you naturally enjoy more.
Yes.
And there's stuff that has more resistance.
Yes. Yeah.
Taking photos and videos, much more natural.
Yeah.
I sucked at it at the beginning.
Okay.
But you can overcome
grow.
it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Playing instruments, I sucked at it. I want to play it, but I just never got through it. So
that's the thing. Is I always tell people they're oh, how do I figure out what I like, what I don't like? And I'm just try everything and then just nix whatever you don't like. You try it once and you're okay, I have it. Now I know what it's like. I don't like that. Never do it again. And then you narrow down the list that way, right? I feel like humans very rarely know exactly what they like, and it's just you learn from trial and error, right? At the beginning of my world into photography and videography, I was I like portraits, I like that, and that's all I did. And I'm I should expand my horizons, right? Try different things. You never know what I might fall in love with. A friend of mine, very into car photography, so she's Mark, come out to a drifting event, and I was I've never done car photography before, right? I would love to do that. It's very interesting. It's different. I've never tried that. I'm very open to new experiences. And I went there and I shot cars and I did photo and video, and I was inches away from these cars that were drifting around, and I didn't realize how much smoke and it was just it's crazy. It's a whole different experience. And I was that's cool. Is that something I would do on a regular basis? No. But I'm very glad that I did the thing. It's not that I didn't like it. It's just it wasn't for me, you know, and that's fine. The people there were very passionate about cars and drifting and that kind of stuff. And I'm I don't understand it, you know, I'm oh, I saw a Ferrari and I thought that was cool. I have no idea what was going on with all these drifting cars, and they're very passionate about that kind of thing. And I'm that I'm not for this crowd, but that's okay, you know, I tried it, I had fun, I learned, I learned how to not whip pan, but that's the word, you know, when you're doing that slow shutter kind of panning shot.
The background's
it's blurry. And you're oh, that's I learned how to do that there. And I'm that I could transfer that to other skills in my own work, right? And that's really interesting too, is you can take what's bread and butter in one skill set and kind of apply it to yours, even though it's not bread and butter. Yeah, exactly. So it's you know, when I'm doing street photography in Hong Kong, I started doing that with taxis and bike rides, you know, I was hey, I learned this skill because I went to a drifting event, right? It's very interesting seeing that kind of ability to learn new things from where you least expect it.
Yeah. At least what I recognized, what came natural to me, is more of this format.
Yeah. Well, because you're more comfortable talking to an actual person, right?
And something that I enjoy, I do all the time. So I was this is cool. And then, you know, this, for me, first time of really trying to post content, and then because to this point, I post my client work, or I post something that's creative work, and I am satisfied at that point ultimately. That's fine. You know, if it gets 10 views, if it gets more views, I'm that's awesome. But for me, technically, I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
At the moment of ending on my computer screen, export, I like the video, done. I'm happy. But for this, that I see long term, I want to do this long term. And I guess it's more about trying to learn about the platform even more.
Yeah.
And trying to just see of like, okay, what kind of content's out there? What kind of stuff is doing well? Like, just detail of how to post. And it's even because you got TikTok, you got YouTube Shorts, you got YouTube, you got Instagram, you got Facebook,
Threads
and then so it's just like
X
now
instead of Twitter.
Yeah. It's just now it's just kind of like I post everywhere and see. I'm like, oh, I didn't know because like I have like no following on Facebook, and Facebook gets more views than Instagram. I'm like, interesting. And then so it's just that kind of stuff that I've been just been thinking about, and also I'm thinking that this will long term help with my clients, whatever I learn
for sure.
here will apply over there, and just talking skills, human skills.
Yes, it's always like socialization and communication are skills that are useful in all aspects of life, right? Like I've always been a pretty good speaker.
I think so.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Like I was the kid who would go up at assemblies and like, say stuff, or like I loved announcing like sports events, and I was like the star solo art like singer for like some Christmas not pageants, what I'm like, like the little kid stuff, right? Like the choir, there we go, right? Like I liked being the center of attention.
Like public speaking, was.
And I think as I grew up, I got a little bit more timid as things goes on, but I can always turn it on when I need to. Like I don't think I'll be like the first one to race for the microphone anymore, but like if I realize the room is dead quiet, I'm like, okay, someone needs to do something. I guess I will do it. So I'll go up there and start talking and take over control because I hate dead silence.
What's next?
Oh, define next. Like
I guess I guess like for your YouTube, you're going back to Hong Kong. I feel like that's your place now, right? At least
for the near future. That's a touchy subject these days, but I feel like to me personally, Hong Kong has an expiration date on it, so I don't think I'm going to be there long term. There's current talks of my family moving to Canada within the next year or so, so I've always viewed Canada as kind of like the end goal. I don't know when it's going to happen, but like I kind of view that as like the place I'm going to live forever.
So how about like work wise? I know work will shift a little bit, but YouTube still probably be the same.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like when you're a creative like that, you can, as long as you have an internet connection, you're kind of good wherever you are, which has been I love being a digital nomad like that. My setup is very mobile. I can do everything. I put it in a carry-on bag and I'm good to go. So. Yeah, I think, for the near future, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Like, I don't think anything's really going to change. Like, people ask, like, Mark, do you ever want to, like, bring someone on, like, have a small team? I'm like, maybe eventually. Like, I'm not at that point yet, right? I don't have enough funds to pay someone to do that, as convenient as it would be. And then I also think about that myself. I'm like, even if I did have the funds, if that was a possibility, do I want to give up creative control? Like that's hard giving that up because I'm very picky about my own. Like I love having that control over things because that was one of the things that I loved about it, because initially YouTube for me was just an escape from my journalism because I hated that there was no creativity allowed. It was very cookie cutter. They're like, here's how you do.
Step two.
Exactly. It's like, here's your talking head, here's your B-roll, here's your voiceover, and this is the format it should be. No creativity, no color grading, no nothing, no sound design, it just very boring. And I'm like, I hate that. I want to do way more, and you're not allowing me to. Like, I wanted to get creative with color grading. I wanted to learn about sound design. I wanted to get better quality everything, and that was something that journalism did not allow me to do because there is a very strict format that you're supposed to follow, and I didn't like that. And I don't think there's a strict format on YouTube, but there's like things that do better than other things, right? And I think people tend to gravitate towards a certain style that does better on YouTube, but I do maintain full creative control, and I can do whatever I want, which I really like.
What's your favorite video?
People ask me that, and I think my go-to response is my White Sands video with Corwin, which
wasn't that a while ago?
It was a long time ago. Yeah, that was like 3.5, 4 years ago. Something. It was a hot second ago.
What makes it your favorite?
I don't know. It was like the first time I really road tripped with a friend, which I thought was so cool. I thought the
Hey, baby. What are you doing? That's not your
eating the microphone stand. Yeah, I see you. Oh, he's so cute. I love that because it was just like it was a fun adventure. I thought you got to see personalities. It was such a majestic location. Like I was like, oh my god, like it felt otherworldly. Like it felt like I was on Mars, you know? Like I did not feel like I was on Earth anymore. And I thought the photos and videos we got there were just so freaking cool. I loved that.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
It's really long ago. It's God, I don't know how.
I might have already scrolled. I'll probably type in like Corwin, right?
Probably just like White Sands.
Okay,
Yeah, White Sands. But it was a hot second ago. I really love that. It just has sentimental value to me, and I just, I brought my gimbal out, so
there
I got some
we go.
smooth shots.
Okay.
Yes.
I remember watching this a long time ago. Yeah,
I loved it, and it just was like it was so
Sunset's
cool.
nutty.
Yes. Yeah. And because the white sand basically acts as a reflector, right? So you're perfectly lit all the time, which was like mind blowing to me. And it's surprisingly not as hot as you'd expect it to be.
When did you go?
September. Okay. I want to say September time. Maybe either late September or early October. I remember that because I literally the night before I had just gotten off a flight from Bali, so I was horribly jet lagged, very tired, and then I got up at like 6:30 in the morning and then go road trip for like 7.5 hours to New Mexico. Yeah, and I was just like, man, I just have no downtime. But it was so much fun. I loved it. Yeah.
Do you have a video you want to shoot that like you have in mind as a concept or something that like, ooh, like this would be fun, like this would be a cool concept video? Anything.
Sometimes, like I have some ideas when it comes to like, like my model portrait videos. I was like, oh, I'd love trying new things and whatnot. I do have some ideas that way, but I've always wanted to dabble slightly more in like documentary style stuff. Yeah. And I haven't really done that yet. Yeah. And it's not like the opportunity hasn't arisen. It's just that like I don't really know where to start or how to start that kind of thing because it's different, right? Like you have to pick a subject, kind of follow them. It's natural. There's not a lot of.
It's a little lengthy.
Yeah, it's lengthy. It's like I want the over the shoulder type, like following real life, and then you need the sit down stuff as well, and the voiceover, and like I think that kind of production is really really cool. But I haven't quite found the right person to do it with. I don't know. Yeah, that's something I've always kind of wanted to try, and I think I'll eventually get there. But yeah.
Milo, do you want to come on the podcast?
Come here. Hey, baby.
Come here.
Hey, baby.
Come here.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Podcasts get infinitely better with puppies.
There we go. 1 million views.
There you go, dude. Dogs are great. Dogs are man's best friend for a reason. You're such a baby. I love you. You're so cute.
This might become a thing now where we just put
Honestly, I feel like it should be a thing. Yeah. I'm annoyed that it hasn't been a thing. I mean, okay, if you're doing client work, it's different, right? But can't quite have a dog in the middle of like a very formal interview. Like, how's your business going? And a dog is slobbering on me. Like, not quite the same, but yes. Dogs are so precious. I've always wanted a dog, and I cannot have one, which sucks.
It's a lot.
I know it's a lot. It's funny because it's basically like having a child for the first couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it, like, especially when I was sleeping. I think I had Milo for this was probably the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Go ahead, Milo, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I had him for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we're sleeping, and then it's like 3 a.m. I hear like,
and you're like, oh no,
and then he throws up.
Yeah.
And it's just like a ball of grass because he was eating all the grass outside. Yeah. He learned his lesson, obviously. Yeah. From there, he like pretty much stopped eating grass. But that
he should.
He went crazy on the grass, and there's just a ball of just like stomach acid and just grass, and it's like 3 a.m. Like
you're like, I don't want to deal with this.
I just want to go to sleep.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You have to take care of it. So, you know, like you got those kind of fun memories, and but honestly, if I was not a dog person, I would never have a dog.
That's the thing, right? So like you have to. It's a commitment, right? Like I feel, and that's what really sucked for me seeing during the pandemic. A lot of people were, they were stuck inside, so they're like, you know what, I'm gonna get a dog, and they didn't realize how much responsibility that would be. And then you just have all these dogs being given to shelters or the pound or whatever, and I'm just like, man, like this is not a decision you take like you should have this same kind of gravity as like whether or not you want children,
Yeah,
right? Like
'cause
this is a lifelong commitment.
it
it's
is.
not like I don't want it,
Like,
I'm
they
going to
got
return
feelings.
it. Yeah,
Like, you know?
exactly. You know, like it's a lot. It's but you know, when
It's
you
worth
go
it.
in, it is,
Yeah.
right? Like you come home to unconditional love.
Yeah,
like,
literally,
where
there's
else in life do you get that?
The loyalty that dogs have is just something else.
It's
Just the
so precious.
companionship
I
and like
know.
how they look at you is just
I know.
it's just different.
It is.
Yeah.
They're so precious. It's so funny because I've always wanted a golden retriever, and this summer up in Vancouver, I actually got to play with one for a couple of days. And I didn't realize how much they shed, and I was like, "Dang, that's."
He just went through the shedding season.
Yeah, I was
for
like,
him.
"Dang, that's a lot of hair," and I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay." And then like I'm more of like a medium-ish size dog, like in
Yeah.
like the 35 to
Yeah.
like 60-pound range, you know. So bigger. Like I've always said, like if I can punt a dog, it's not a dog, right? Like I hate these little yappy chihuahuas.
You like to have some meat.
Yeah,
to
I
it,
got like
yeah.
I don't want to. I don't want a lap dog, right? Like I want something that's bigger than that. And then I went to see my best friend up in Calgary, and he has 2 dogs that are like 20-ish pounds, so they're definitely lap dogs, but on the bigger side of that. It's like one was a mini schnauzer and one was like a God, I forget the name, but it was like a poodle-ish schnauzer mix,
Yeah,
maybe. It was
okay.
like, very similar size, hypoallergenic.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that's a really good size. I'd never really thought about that because you can tire them out inside, which I thought was great. You don't need to take them for walks. You don't need to do anything like that. Yeah, puppy. Puppy just wants to sleep. There you go. Join the podcast, Milo. What are your deep thoughts on the inside? Are your bones good enough?
Milo's
Are your
just
treats yummy?
Feed me, take me outside,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
it's too hot. So
It
it's
is
been
too
tough
hot.
to take him for a walk until like it's like 10 p.m. and
Yeah.
we go for 15 minutes
Yeah,
and he's like,
and even then, like,
yeah,
do you have the
he's-
little booties on his feet?
So I put wax on, like
okay.
some wax gel a little
Okay.
bit, so it like
Just a
protects
little
his
bit of
paws.
protection.
Yeah,
Okay,
it
yeah.
protects his paws.
Yeah. See, that's the thing too. Is like I love shooting outside.
Yeah.
And it's
Your
not
summertime
possible to
doesn't
do
allow
that.
it.
Like we've had how many days over 110 now? It's like
And it's July.
3 weeks
Yeah.
in a row. We've broken
Yeah.
every record.
Yeah.
Like every day is between like 112 and
Yep.
120. Apparently, even my friends in Hong Kong were sending me news articles about how many people have like gotten 3rd-degree burns by tripping and falling on the pavement. Like,
Because like some parts of your car, like metal, like all
You literally
Arizona
burn
people can
yourself.
relate, but like
It's-
if you touch the wrong parts, or especially if you're like going into someone
yeah,
else's car,
exactly.
you don't know which place to avoid, and you just
it's
like
insane.
yeah.
It's absolutely
Yeah.
insane. So yeah, Arizona is hot, so hot. So yeah, you have to get everything done by 9 a.m. or you can't be outside.
No
Like
outside, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's just tough. It's
Well,
very tough.
Arizona's very hot, but Mark, is there anything you wanna say to everyone?
Are we wrapping this? Is
I
that
think
is
so.
this final
I
thoughts?
think
okay.
so.
I
We'll
wanna say
do part 2 again.
we'll do part 2.
We'll
Okay.
do part 2 again.
Well, I'd say feel free to follow me on YouTube and Instagram at Marc Taraz, MarcTaraz. I hope you like my work, and if not, cool. Thanks for stopping by. Ken, you've been a wonderful host. And I'm glad that I got to have a wonderful conversation about a great variety of topics today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, very professional ending. I like it, Mark. We'll go get some food or something.
There we go. Sounds good. All right, let's go.